Hi, everybody. This is Truth Media. I'm your host, the Information Man, new channel here. Let me get into this right now. Hollyweird. We know that people in Hollyweird sell their soul for whatever it takes to get the best role in movies. They're willing to spread it wide open and shake it wide open to get in the upper echelon of entertainment. Terrence Howard was on a podcast recently on Valuetainment, and he stated that P. Diddy, the diddler himself, who's in a lot of trouble, he's got those freak offs that he engaged in. You have people in Hollywood that engaged in those freak offs, but they're being silent. Well, Terrence Howard admitted on this podcast that P. Diddy attempted to try to fuck him. What happened was that P. Diddy got in contact with Terrence Howard and tried to tell Terrence Howard, hey, I would like to have acting lessons. So Terrence Howard took him up on this situation, but he soon realized that P. Diddy, the diddler himself, was trying to smash him. He wanted to clap his cheeks. This is the weird stuff that goes on in Hollyweird, and let you hear this video of Terrence Howard breaking this whole thing down about how sick things and how people literally sell their soul in Hollyweird. This P. Diddy, it's bad news, everybody. So let's check this out right now. This is going to be one for the ages. Here we go.
Try and deal with life, you are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far. You know, who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what he had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. You know, but when you lose your man card, that's the only thing I can think of. You lose your damn man card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it, a man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying. You don't get that back. You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt, fear of somebody doing something, for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose some spiritual energy that has always been pushing through. Like if a woman gives up her womanly right of being a mother and taking care of her family and do all those things, when you give up those things, but when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Get punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there.
Now, you've heard a nice hunk of what he was saying. What do you all think about this? We've all heard these stories about the weird stuff that goes on in Hollyweird, but Terrence Howard is breaking it down. I think that when Terrence Howard is talking about these sort of things, he's more in his element of knowledge. Other than Terrence Howard getting into this weird stuff about 2 + 2 = 1 and that he's got all these patents and he's a science and a brilliant mind, when he's been getting into that wacky stuff, he loses me. But in this case, Terrence Howard is talking about something that he knows because he's been in the motion picture industry of Hollyweird for quite some time. So none of this surprises me, but the fact that the diddler is trying to literally fuck everybody that he can get his hands on. And he's going to tell you the story about how, as I said before, P. Diddy wanted acting lessons, and he kept looking at this man and looking at him, and Terrence Howard was feeling uncomfortable until one of his own assistants said, I think that P. Diddy wants to fuck you. Here we go. Put the clip back on.
Because they get fluid, and next thing you know, once it go fluid, it's gone. You don't have any foundation to pull yourself back from. So maintain your man card, no matter what.
Man, I mean, you know, one of the things you're seeing, you went to a whole different place.
Sorry.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card. You need therapy. And that's the thing that hurts them the most. And so they end up on drugs, end up every way to try and get rid of any principles there are. And that's what the business does. And the women that trade their bodies to go and get the role, they get to the point where they have their Oscar, they have their money, but they don't have their dream. They don't have the soul that they.
Stop it right there. You understand what he's saying here, that people are giving up who they really are. As he said, men in Hollywood are giving up their man card, and they are engaging in behavior that they normally would have never engaged in if it had not been for chasing fame, the almighty dollar of fame, to get out of a car, to go to a premiere show of your opening of your show, of your movie. All of this, or even women giving it all up to be a star. And as a result, as he said, that you end up giving up your man card, or you get seduced by the drugs and all the trappings of Hollywood, that you're willing to give up your man card, as you see that card coming right out of there right now, because the trappings of Hollywood is what does this to you. When you give up your soul for the devilish fame of Hollywood, the devilish parties, the nightlife that is there, Terrence Howard is on to something. Terrence Howard is speaking truth. He's not talking this wacky mathematics stuff that he's been talking lately, but he's talking about what's happening in Hollywood.
They started with, so it's like achieving don't mean anything. If I get all the Nobel Prizes from doing all of this, but in the process I have to trade out all of my integrity to do it so that they can stay in place, what benefit is that if I lose my integrity? You got to go in as a principal. And what we were brought in here as men. We produce 1,500 sperm per heartbeat for a reason, because the aggression is necessary. You don't trade that in, no matter what.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What?
Now, this is where he will begin to break down a very crazy situation with him and the Diddler P. Diddy trying to get his hands on his cheeks. This is, and the question is, he encountered this. We've been knowing this, folks, that Hollywood, this sort of behavior has been going on in Hollywood for decades and decades and decades. You wonder how certain people become stars out of nowhere. They even had at one point in time in Hollywood the casting couch, where if a woman wanted to be a star, she had to sleep. That's why they call it the casting couch. She had to sleep with a director or a producer. The same thing that's happening today. Didn't Cat Williams say that he went to a party one time and he saw people in Hollywood in rooms having sexual behavior, freak-offs as we call them today? And P. Diddy is in jail right now awaiting his trial over the things that he's been doing, drugging, right? Drugging people, putting things in their liquor and what have you. Just despicable sort of stuff that he's been engaging in. Let's hear Terrence Howard break this part down.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there just looking at me.
Did you hear what he just said? Did you hear what Terrence Howard has just broken down here so effectively? So I think everything he's saying is true. When he's talking this sort of stuff, Terrence Howard sounds so credible. When he's talking the other stuff, the 2 + 2 = 1, he's off his rocker. But he knows this highly weird because he's been in it for some time. And this man, the Diddler, there's no telling how many other celebrities have had this same experience with P. Diddy that just don't feel comfortable talking about it because of how highly weird operates and runs. P. Diddy lied to Terrence Howard to get him to hang out with him because his whole goal was to try to groom, this is crazy, was to try to groom Terrence Howard so he could clap his cheeks. And this is what Terrence Howard is talking about giving up your manhood. You only have it one time. And by giving it up, it's almost like you're giving up the man card, right? The man card, that the only thing that you have is that man card when you came into the world. And it's really crazy the way this whole thing works. Let's get back to the clip.
Like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, you know, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you. That's what my assistant said.
As you hear the truth spoken by Terrence Howard, that the assistant told him, and Terrence came to the realization that the Diddler himself, the man who engages in freak off, the baby oil, all the stuff that he has been allegedly accused of, the putting things in drinks, that P. Diddy was basically trying to fuck Terrence Howard. And Terrence Howard peeped that game and said, oh no, this ain't gonna happen. This ain't that type of party. This is the highly weird. This is the cost and the price that some of these people pay. The Diddler has been doing this for a while, y'all. It's obvious. Let's get back.
Like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in and make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you like, or looking at you like you're a woman. You know, when you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy.
This is a fact. What he's saying here is a fact, everybody. You approach a real man, you're going to get a real man reaction. No real man. This is just like Terry Crews, when Terry Crews said he was grabbed in the nuts and he didn't do anything aggressively back to Weinstein. I think it was Weinstein. A real man who is secure in his masculinity, but don't let anyone cross that line, is not going to take that. Let's continue.
Walks in a room, and when a man walks into a room, and a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept. So always be the man in the room. And that's always been my whole thing, and have lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play gay roles. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that shit because the man card means everything. To try and deal with life, you are literally,
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard Terrence Howard break it down that he doesn't do that type of shit. It's about a principle to him. It's about the man card again. It's about that man card. You're going to see this man pull out the man card. This is a metaphor for what Terrence Howard was saying, everybody. Just that. But once again, P. Diddy wanted to fuck Terrence Howard. What can I say? It's crazy. You've been listening to Truth Media Raw.